portal, but on YouTube, they'll become hidden. You won't be able to find them on YouTube. So there will be informal sessions when I'll stop the recording. If you want to talk about some things you don't feel comfortable being on record about, you can talk about it then. So in this boot camp, I must say that I compare it to what is called a hero's journey. There was as you know, Campbell had a theory of most stories and mythologies. He made a famous statement saying, all great stories of humanity are one story. They're all based on one template, right? And that template is called the hero's journey. It represents just about any non-trivial or arduous thing that you do, any saga in your life. And I'll talk a little bit about it, but keep that as a reference frame as you go through this boot camp. So in that, obviously, and I'll simplify it a little bit, the Campbell's thing is you start out with a call to action. You get a calling, and that brings you all here into this, getting started on this journey. You struggle on, it's fun in the beginning, you're making progress, and then the going gets tough, and then you're in the belly of the beast. It all sounds and looks rather hopeless. You will go through it because one thing you'll realize at Support Vectors, we won't compromise on the rigor. This place it is located somewhere midpoint between Stanford and Berkeley. We have participants here from Stanford and Berkeley because we believe that we provide superior AI, only AI training than either of the two places give. Right? Otherwise, your tuition is guaranteed to go back to you. So now you know these are rigorous places. So you should get a sense of how rigorous this boot camp is going to be. So you will be in the belly of the beast most of the time. You'll be struggling. You need to have a conversation with your family that it's okay with them. Mentally prepare them for it. I'm giving you a realistic check. But I promise you one thing, you'll come out of the belly of the beast. That's my job, to take you out. And when you come out, you'll come out victorious. What do you come out with? Let me give you the data from the previous batch that just finished in December 2023. You see the names of all these teams along the walls. There are 10 teams that you see, 10 conference rooms, 10 teams. 4 of them became successful startups. One of them has already gotten fairly large amount of VC funding and picked up clients based on the work they did right here in the boot camp. Another of them is on the verge of has gotten promises of funding, is on the verge of getting it. And the other ones are making pitches to, one of them is making a pitch to one of the top tier VCs. And the last one has created their own AI-driven edtech company. Right? 2 of those teams have gone on to found new AI teams within their company to lead and literally start AI efforts within the companies that they work. This is it. Now, I said we started out with 10 teams. Each team had a significant population. Did we have attrition? Most of the attrition you have in the first week. After that, you don't have. Right? Once people realize that here we mean business. We are going to push you hard. We are a full faculty. You see me here. You see Kate. She's our course coordinator, lead course coordinator. Please reach out to her whenever you need any help. Kate Amon, Kate at supportvectors.com. There is El Chanda, and this classroom has filled up completely. Okay, there's Chanda, who is, to give you a measure of the sort of quality we bring here to the faculty. He's one of the toppers from the Indian Institute of Technology, IIT Chennai, top rank holders in JEE, with a outstanding PhD in US of a subject of who did in quantum field theories. Right? We have other people here in the audience who are all India toppers, right, in their fields. So Support Vectors is a collection of high caliber talent. Some of you who have been here before know this for a fact. And our mission is to pull you out, bring you to this level. As you can imagine, people have told us the tuition is a bit stiff. Our goal is to give you an ROI so that this becomes the best investment you ever made in your life. The highest ROI investment. And from experience, I can tell you that is true. Imagine that coming to this bootcamp and after that walking away and getting $18 million VC funding for the work that you start. It's a reality. It's a reality that just happened. Right? Things like that. So, but for that, I would like you to have two things for sure. Two things that are non-negotiable. One, please bring commitment. You may come from diverse walks of life. This is the first boot camp. There are people with leadership background. There are people with technical background. In this, if it is a little bit of a history, where you are sitting, each one of you, I can tell one successful person, at least from each chair, who was not from computer science and is very successful today. So people come to this room, to this boot camp, with an imposter syndrome. They feel they're an imposter. Others are, oh my goodness, they are all very bright and very geniuses, right? So I would say it's part of the pedagogical or the educational process. It's my responsibility to pull you up, not for you to fear. If you were not capable, I would not have let you register. I mean it. For all of you that you are here, there are many people that I have said no to. So if I have allowed you in this group, it is because I believe you can do it, right? And so first is bring commitment. The second thing that I want you to bring is, guess what? Can someone guess? What do I want? Time, of course. Time commitment is for time and effort. But what else do I want? Guys, when we discuss, I have one request and one request only. Attention. Right? Please close your cell phones, close your laptops. There is no reason to go onto the laptop. Let me give you a sense of how these sessions will happen. It is backed with a lot of educational technology that has literally been developed here at Support Vectors. Your videos, everything that I say now becomes a video that you'll have access to in the course portal when it comes up. Unfortunately, we just got hacked yesterday evening. It's like a perfect storm right before the boot camp, and our team is trying to recover it in the back. But when it does, the video will be there. But more than that, you will see that the video has been carefully summarized. Right? Not only has it been summarized, out of the technical content of the video, you will find quizzes there for self-assessment. I will expect you to take those quizzes. Nobody sees the score that you got in the quizzes, not even me. So what's the purpose of a quiz? In a college, you take a quiz, the professor's judging you. Right? Here, no one sees how you're doing on the quiz, except you. It's a self-assessment. Which parts did you understand and didn't understand? And what you will notice is that our platform will immediately try to explain whatever you got wrong in greater detail. Because we have limited time, I will speak only to a certain depth on a topic. If you get it wrong, the system will take you deeper. You will find that that is an action there. So do take all your quizzes. The projects that you will do, you will get starter codes for that. So you can hit the ground running. We have teaching assistants here day and night. One thing that I would do is add you all to a Slack channel. If you're not on the Slack channel, and obviously I'm a little bit handicapped to find out who are the people all registered, but when you are on the Slack channel, stay engaged. You will realize, if you see the previous cohort, people keep posting messages all the time. It's a learning community. See, learning has three pillars: to listen, to do, and to work together. One reason I encourage teams and to work together is that you have to be you will become part of the Support Vectors learning community. Many people have come and said that as feedback, and obviously this sounds like marketing, but as feedback, they said that the most valuable thing they got out of Support Vectors was not the workshop, but the community, because it became a free consulting service. Anytime you have a question in your workplace, you can just drop it and somebody or the other will jump in and give you a very precise and knowledgeable answer to that. It's high value, but do that. We don't allow anyone into the community except people who are alumni of this place. Right? So do use that community. Do the quizzes. If you do the quizzes, those of you who are looking for jobs, I assure you, you will scare your interviewer. People have told me that they have found the FANG interviews absolutely easy when it came to AI part. Right? Do I hear a question somewhere? No. All right. So those are the ground rules, guys. The way it will work is we'll start every day. Now, today was introductory, but it will start. Today, I'll walk you through what the entire curriculum syllabus is. And again, as I warn you, it looks daunting, but it is my job to make it easy. As the German poet Goethe said, everything easy starts out as hard.
Your room is just here. You just come from here.
Somebody needs to be
here outside. And you just come here, and here's the stairs.
Okay. All right. So everything that is easy starts out hard. The definition of easy is that which you understand. Definition of hard is something you are struggling to understand. My job is to make sure, therefore, be the bridge from the hard to the easy, and we will make sure. We have 30 years, more than 32 years of experience doing this at universities and in the industry. So with that background now, let us get started immediately. I will share my screen and do a very quick overview of the syllabus. Just give me a moment. We will do something very practical today. Are you folks seeing my screen? You're able to see it. Excellent. So let me, so one more thing, I'm not much of a PowerPoint person. So this is one of the rare, I give only 5-minute like overviews every day. Other than that, we'll be in sort of spontaneous conversation most of the time. So look at us as Sherpas. You know what a Sherpa is? So who climbed Mount Everest? Yeah, it was Edmund Hillary, supposedly. Guess who carried him, his luggage, and his food, his oxygen, and everything to the top of Mount Everest? The Sherpas. Tenzing. Sherpa Tenzing. So look at us as Sherpas. You guys go and do glorious things, get the glory. Do difficult things, climb Mount Everest. It'll make you climb Mount Everest. But we'll be the Sherpas taking you there. I say that with Sherpa in my blood. I'm part Nepali. So this is a little bit about support vectors. We don't just teach, we actually do a lot of R&D. The team that is here, and I won't go into it, we have the faculty that is there behind you actually, has close to 60 patents, has over 100 research papers, and in our lifetime, we have produced more than a dozen enterprise-grade software in this field of AI and so forth, and whose net annual revenue is in excess of $1 billion. We did it for companies, so we didn't make that money. We got our salaries. Right? So I hope you feel that you are in good hands. You have one responsibility, guys. Ask questions. Again, it's an old adage that you tell children that if you don't ask a question, if you ask a question, you may look foolish for a day. What a dumb question. I feel awkward asking it. It will look dumb or something like that. But when you ask a question, you might look foolish for a day to some of your peers. If you don't ask that question, you will remain ignorant for a lifetime. So please do ask questions. I would like to keep this very, very interactive. Right? It's a boot camp. It has to be interactive. I'll be coming to each one of you and seeing what you're doing throughout the day. So that is important. Now, the landscape of AI is quite interesting. When you ask, what is AI? In people's imagination, in common man's imagination, it's ChatGPT. ChatGPT is sort of the AI moment when AI came upon the scene. right? If you ask engineers, what is AI? They will say, oh, AI is all those algorithms. If you ask researchers, what is AI? They will say, oh, the heart of AI, the heart of machine learning is learning. And what you see on the screen is the equation for learning. How many of you recognize this equation? It is the equation for gradient descent on the loss landscape. We will learn more about it. If you ask actual companies doing AI at large scale, and you ask them what is AI, they say AI is a long, long journey of which the algorithms, the research, is a significant but a minuscule piece. I really mean it. When you do AI projects, the amount of resources, the people you throw at it, and the amount of time they spend at it, the algorithmic part will often be 10% or less. So in this course, you will learn not only about the algorithms, and I will take you deep into the algorithms, but you will learn a lot about creating high performance, robust enterprise scale AI systems. What does it take to do that? As you will realize, we are at a very peculiar point in history. For the longest time, we have been complacent that the hardware has become so fast, my goodness. Everything runs zipping fast on consumer grade hardware, isn't it? Even an iPhone looks blazing fast. Is that the common experience? We feel compared to 20 years ago. But when it comes to AI, it brings just about every piece of hardware to its knees. Today, we have the opposite situation that used to exist 30 years ago. Algorithms are very powerful. There is simply not enough hardware to go with it. And the kind of companies that can afford that amount of hardware are few and just a few handful. It is OpenAI, Facebook, Microsoft, Google, and a few others, and that's about it. The rest of us are starved for hardware. Countries are starved for hardware. In fact, getting access to AI hardware has become a national priority for most countries. Right? And if it is any indication, just look at NVIDIA stocks. There's at this moment only one company making a publicly available hardware for this. There are some startups like Cerebras who are innovating, but while NVIDIA, so there was a time when NVIDIA cards used to go for 400, 500, 1,000, and so forth. Then you realize that they quietly added a zero and they started going for, like, instead of 3,400, 3,000, 4,000. And before you knew it, they added quietly one more zero. And now the video cards, anything that you can do AI on, goes for $30,000 to $40,000 each.
Yeah, so there is a concern that with these powerful machines, there is a lot of carbon emissions, and they're also trying to have some alternative hardware so that
Yes,
you don't have to rely
do
on
that.
big machines.
Absolutely. No, that's a very good point. Prashant here brings the point that there's a concern widely that these hardwares, they have a huge carbon footprint, and that to create alternate architectures which are not so compute intensive or so power hungry, which is absolutely true. It is. Today, you marvel at the power of these, for example, the GPT-4, etc. But to train GPT-4 took about the same amount of electricity as would power a small city for a whole year.
It looks like they spend $1 million just on it.
Yes, they spent more than that, actually. That's an underestimation. You spend a lot of energy, and that has a huge carbon footprint. And there is a growing body of research that says we need to solve the problem, compute problem. But it is there. Now, one of the things that you have access to, guys, here is each of these discussion rooms has a computer. Own one. It's yours. I'll give you accounts on this and pick up people who are remote, partner with them, make them feel included, please. Right? So, and I will give everybody who is remote access to this hardware. There is also a few super servers in the data center room right behind me, actually behind this wall. And those have heavy GPU servers. In fact, so much GPU that I have to serve it with 100 ampere power line. And they have a massive power draw. So guys, all of this infrastructure is at your beck and call. I can't imagine creating a more conducive atmosphere for you guys. If you are here, I hope you notice that we are next to a busy street, Fremont, which is the McCarthy Boulevard also. How many of you can hear any traffic at all? A pin drop silence. This entire building is acoustically conditioned to have the ambience of a library. Above you is 1 foot of acoustic conditioning. Below you, under the carpet, is acoustic conditioning. The walls are acoustically conditioned. This place, nobody has ever gotten COVID here because on the roof, there is one of the mightiest super HEPA filters there and 7 layers of it. So even if somebody were to come with COVID, God forbid, quite likely you will be safe. So it's a safe, nice environment. Use it, guys. Right? You can be here not just on Sunday. You can be here throughout the week. This place is open. It typically opens around 10. It stays open till pretty late in the evening, 7, 8. Come form teams, have discussions, or form discussions in the neighboring coffee shops, wherever you are. Please work together. Anyway, so with that, we'll move forward. When you look at the AI enterprise, it has many parts. As I said, there's the data infrastructure. AI runs on 3 legs, or 4 legs actually, but let me put it simply. See, the reason AI has come about so rapidly these days is because, and why did it not happen 40 years ago? Part of it has to do with hardware. These algorithms are a beast. I remember, if you have been through computer science courses, you must have been told that bubble sort is bad. Quick sort is better. Bubble sort is order n square. Quick sort is, what is it? N log n, isn't it? Great. However, in machine learning, most algorithms are much worse. Much, much, much worse. If something is only order n square, we celebrate. Right? So to train these algorithms, you need vast quantities of data. These are ginormous parametric models. To train it is not an easy thing. We do it. You have models and algorithms. That's what people associate with AI. You also have a ML platform. How do you run it? How do you take it to production? It's good. In AI, it's extraordinarily easy to see a proof of concept. The web is littered with Medium articles and little Jupyter notebooks, which shows, look, Ma, I can fly. Right? You can do this with this model. You can do that with that model. Those things are dime a dozen. But ask one of those guys, can you take it to production? Very few, as of today, very, very few companies have succeeded in taking AI to production. Can you guess why? None of them really know how to do it.
Performance.
Performance is one reason. Yes, that's true. But it's also, see, companies are rich. They can get hardware. A bigger problem is they really don't know. They're sort of, somebody will say, yes, yes, I know. They'll put something together. Traffic load comes and the whole thing comes crashing down. It becomes way, way too expensive. And so therefore performance. Right? But how do you create an AI system in which you actually have a net positive? The money you make out of it, right? The licensing fee you charge your clients more than compensates for the hardware cost that you have. Right? To do it correctly is engineering. And you will learn about ML platforms in this course. You will learn about ML ops, how to design an end-to-end pipeline. Now, in this course, because these are vast topics, I will get you started on all of these. In a subsequent course, we give in the LLM 2, for those of you who are really into it, if you're doing something really production grade, then talk to me, we can do. Security and compliance are very important. I'll illustrate this with a fact. If you don't worry about security, the first thing that happens is people will attack and take you down. Actually, I did worry about security, but still, it turned out that one student's account's password was very weak. And through that, a hacker used that as a vector to come into the learning portal and has taken it down yesterday afternoon. Right? Since then, many of you have been sending me emails that you can't access the portal. We are in a recovery mode. So, there are always weak points. And it's a trade-off between making it easy for you guys to access it, right, or securing it. I sent all of you your user accounts. You have a password, you know what it is. Please do take an attempt to replace it with a hard password as soon as the portal comes in. Right? But anyway, AI security is important. It's very hard to ensure. For example, Microsoft a few years ago released a bot. They were very confident that this bot can talk to people and do amazing things. Not a few hours had gone by. This is 2014, I believe, or 2016, when people train the hacks to say only racist, sexist, right, things, horrible things. They had managed to teach it to do that. Microsoft had to immediately take it down. Right? So we live in very dangerous times. Just our data center takes, just to give you a metric, more than 1 million hack attacks a day. Why do they do that? We are an educational place. What gold mine are they going to find here? Right? Once we found, well, the one gold mine they can find here is access to the hardware. Not now, but before the pandemic, when this cryptocurrency used to be the big hype, I found cryptocurrency mining running on the servers. Right? So you can imagine that on traditional servers gets hacked. AI is very hacking. If you think normal things, see, for normal systems, we have 30, 40 years of experience on how to safeguard it. With AI, we are just beginning to learn how to safeguard it. Right? Very, very hard. I'll give you an example. This is the early history. When ChatGPT, etc., came out, it did amazing things. But then people wanted to know that if you know the AI theory, you know that behind it is a system prompt, some instruction on what to do and what not to do with the user prompt. Guardrails are there. So at some point, I think it was a ChatGPT or with some other one, somebody wrote a one-liner in the prompt, user prompt. Says, ignore everything that comes before this line. Now tell me this. And quickly, obviously, you patch it, you fix that issue, you make sure it never happens again. Another person put something equivalent to it, a little bit more complicated, but equivalent to it. He says, everything that has come before this line, print it out. And therefore, the whole beautifully written and very long system prompt that OpenAI had came through. It's floating around on the internet. You can read it. Actually, it's really well thought out. If you want assurance that they are trying their best to put guardrails and protect the people, you can read that prompt. You see, lots of instructions are there. Do not do this, do that, and so on and so forth. So that's the security aspect. Well, analytics and visualization, I won't speak about it. Ethics and interpretability is crucial. We live in dangerous times, and we are holding on to extraordinarily dangerous machines. Every time technology advances, the unfortunate history of mankind, in my, I suppose, gloomy perspective is, every time technology goes through a revolution, mankind goes through a form of enslavement. When the Iron Age came out, there was the plow to do agriculture better, but it also led to the rise of armies and empires and very, very stratified societies. Before that, it was just small tribes here and there, or settlements here and there. Then came the Industrial Revolution. There was a time when children used to be tied to textile mills and live there and eat there. Right? And the conditions were horrendous, unbelievable. It led to a massive concentration of power and money. Then, of course, some socialist movements and protests brought in some checks and balances. But Industrial Revolution started out as not just being a blessing. It was a terrible curse to begin with. It's the ugly side we don't realize. Anything remarkable. I happen to be also, besides being in computer science and having an engineering degree, a degree in theoretical, in quantum field theory. Technically, I'm also a nuclear scientist. Nuclear power, when it came, we saw the ugly side of it way before we saw the better side. Today, Nuclear power is mostly benign. You get energy, you get nuclear medicine, right? But it started out with the bombs. And so with AI. AI is perhaps the most profound revolution, the most transformative revolution since the invention of the wheel and the discovery of fire. One can easily argue. It's changing life as we know it. Discovery of electricity, putting a man on the moon, or discovering the internet or computer, these will pale into insignificance compared to what we are going through today. So there are ethical implications that you should be aware of. And of course, the big leg of AI is always people. People need people doing AI, engineers, people wanting to learn AI, people using the AI applications. But more importantly, people who have the sense of civic responsibility and engagement, what AI up to have a conversation, a global conversation, and make sure that we don't repeat the history of the Industrial Revolution. We don't lead to the next enslavement. Unfortunately, with AI in the last decade, you see more and more, and forgive me if this sounds political, more and more concentration of power and wealth. AI at this moment has been the handmaid of disaster. So be careful. This is the AI cycle I'm giving you. I won't be showing this picture again, but this is your AI cycle. You see 3 cycles: orange, blue, and greenish. See, there are people, they're data engineers who spend their life collecting data and getting it ready to be fed into AI. Because AI people, data scientists are hungry. They keep on saying, I need this predictor, I need that predictor, I need more data, more. Why don't I have the latest data? What about, oh my goodness, this is 6 months old. That's the image that comes across to data engineers. They're forever running, trying to feed this hungry beast and this hungry team, that's the AI team. That data management, keeping it fresh, is important. Otherwise, if AI has learned from a model that is 6 months old or 1 year old, what does it do? It has lost touch with current reality. So you have model drift, data drift, you have problems. So it's a big exercise to take care. Now in this, you learn from the data, you build engineering models. AI modeling is a typical exercise in the scientific method. The scientific method is to ask a question, to go measure, gather data. Data is the result of measurement. To go measure, and then to learn from those measurements. Ask, measure, learn is the quintessence of the scientific method. That's what you do as a data scientist. Then you build a model. You end up with not only code repositories, you end up with 2 other artifacts, unlike typical software engineers. You end up with a model whose performance you know and whose weaknesses you know very well. You have characterized it. So you get a model, you get its chart sheet of strengths and weaknesses and metrics, valuable information. You also get the training and test data that you can keep testing it against to make sure that it's still doing well, right? You need to store all of that. Then comes the whole process of taking it to production. What works in your laptop will not work on the server. If you deploy to the server, the CFO will soon be giving you a call. Right? It will be way too expensive to deploy your code as is to production. It's too expensive. We need to go through a process of streamlining that and looking through every cost aspect of it, because that hardware is horrendously expensive. And you need to put the maximum throughput. A very simple thing. Today itself, you will see that in action. You will create something. So I'll tell you the topic of today, and you'll do it in action itself. You'll see the difference between a naive approach and a well thought out approach. It will be 3 orders of magnitude difference. Okay? 2 to 3 orders of magnitude difference in performance. Now, 2 to 3 orders of magnitude difference in your wealth is probably the difference between you and a billionaire. Right? So remember, that's the impact. This is your entire journey. By the way, I'll be going through this only today. I won't be repeating it. And this presentation will be in the course portal, assuming we'll have one. Right? So data comes in, you ingest it at scale. Now, one thing about AI is you never say, I don't need this data. That's one lesson you always learn. If you are in a data science team, if you're at Google, if you're at Facebook or any of these groups, you see data. One thing you don't do ever is this data is no use to me. You say, all right, thank you. Right? And you just go store it because you'll need it. What you may not see how to use it, but you'll soon need it. And you need more data than there is. See, to train these large language models, and this is a large language model bootcamp, we have taken all that humanity has produced in its entire history and in every civilization, every culture, every epoch of time, all that data in every subject from geology to psychology and sociology has been fed into it. Every single written word and data has been fed into it. And if you talk to the people training the LLMs, they're saying, oh gosh, we have so little data. So what are they doing? They actually are getting crazy. They're using the LLMs to manufacture more data to train the LLMs, right? Rapidly. So data is a big deal. And to manage data at that scale is a big deal. You need to clean it. You need to validate it. Data cleaning, labeling is a big, big topic. You do that. You have to rationalize the data because machine learning, at the end of it, it is thinking in terms of vectors. It thinks of reality as a point in an abstract vector space. If vector space looks intimidating, just think three-dimensional space, a point in Euclidean space, we all know, or on a page. Imagine a higher dimensional page. To machine learning, to AI, all input is just a point in a higher dimensional page.
So as it goes from data that you have to a vectorized data, does the data get smaller?
Yes, I get a very good question. As you go from the raw data to vectorized data, does it get smaller? Sometimes it does. Most often it becomes 10x. It explodes, right? See, in this world, when we talk about vector spaces, guess what's the typical size of the vector space? 3 dimensions, 2 dimensions? Make a guess, guys.
Million.
Oh, Prashant here is getting aspiration, million dimension. No, not yet there, but typically you look at vectors in thousands of dimensions. 500 dimension, 1000 dimension, 2000 dimensions is pretty normal these days. You realize that these are extraordinarily high dimensions. But if you would like to have millions, the algorithms though that work internally work in infinite dimensional spaces. Those are Hilbert spaces of infinite dimension. Often the neural network theory is mapped to a concept of tangent kernels, neural tangent kernels. Those tangent kernels inherently are infinite dimensional. So there's a lot of beautiful things we'll learn about it. Those of you, I won't go into theory in this class at all. It's all do. We'll build things. But those of you who are on the Tuesday class, will do all of that, all the beautiful, elegant mathematics. So you validate, you transform, you create a library of that features. Those vectors that you create are features. You create a rich library of features. And generally, this is the part, which is the biggest part. Good companies, successful companies, have a vast arsenal of features that is theirs, deeply guarded, Fort Knox secret. Because if you can figure out what features they're feeding into algorithms are known in public. They're published in research papers. Everybody knows. Right? But when you think from data, if I could extract this feature, and you do extract that feature and you apply some mathematics and it works, that's when you develop a secret sauce. So remember, feature engineering is at the core of any AI startup, which I hope you all will do. Then, of course, you experiment, train, tune, you save it in feature stores, you do the deployment and so forth. So in this course, you will do a little bit of all of it. Right? So what's the lesson plan for today? This is what we are going to do. Today, a bit of administrative notes. Once again, guys, I would say, remember, it's not just me here. And I am very accessible. You will find that support vectors doors are open every single day. My office door is open. Walk in, talk to me. Talk to the TAs. And those TAs, as you will realize, are not just some young Joes we have picked up who have just graduated from college or who are freshers in their jobs. These are highly erudite people in the field. So you can rest assured that you won't be able to measure their depths. They will help you in every way possible. Some of you are dialing in from Asia, and it's very harsh hours for you to be attending this. For you, in particular, it's very important that you rely on the teaching assistants in your time zone. Right? Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, India, people from India. For all of you, the teaching assistants sitting in India will prove very useful. Please use them. Now, today's topic, so every day we'll cover one big topic. Today's topic will be semantic search. So what we will do is we will create an AI search engine. It's the first exercise in AI we'll do. How many of you are excited about this? Or are you saying yawn? Right? We'll learn about how AI has turned the whole search industry upside down in one stroke. And how very simple, beautiful ideas, one simple idea can upend a mature, well-established industry. Right? Multi-billion-dollar industry can upend. We'll learn about that. We will read the paper associated with this. Right? That's a paper reading. We'll do some project discussions because today is the first day. Treat it as day zero. You have nothing to show because you haven't done anything, isn't it? But what I will do is right away, maybe through Google Drive or by some means, I'll share with you the starter code. I'll share with you a document which is about your first project, and I'll explain it also. And hit the ground running, guys. Right? Because I promise you, if you hit the ground running. Oh, by the way, I didn't, while I was bragging, I should have bragged about something else. Some of the younger ones in the bootcamp, the last bootcamp, who were aspiring to get into grad school, one got admission to this neighboring college, Stanford here, practically over the weekend, like applied on Friday, submitted the application on Friday, got an offer on Monday. Right? Another of them from this room has multiple offers. I have to figure out which those offers are. And one of the participants in the previous bootcamp was actually my daughter, my elder daughter. She just got admission. Does anybody know which is the #1 university in the world for AI?
Yeah.
Carnegie Mellon, right? She got admission from every CS related department in CMU and the rest of it, all the other universities. So if you're young, that should give you some hope. And again, it should scare you because I mean to push you hard. Right? It's not going to be easy, guys. People have told me that they have never worked so hard in their life. Seriously. And if you don't bring commitment, you'll drop out. But if you do bring commitment, I'll change you. We will change you. Support vectors will transform you and make you very successful. The ones who are looking for a job, the lowest offer, everybody got it, the lowest offer that a fresh hire got, the total package is worth 430K. The highest offer was north of 800K. Go figure. AI is this hot, guys. Opportunity is there. Most people are talkers in AI. They all blabber. They write Medium articles. It's a superficial learning with the Google scholars. Learn it deeply and you'll become priceless. So our goal is to make you learn deeply, guys. So this is the syllabus of your course. We are at the orange dot. The journey begins here. You're about to enter the belly of the beast. Right? We'll learn about text processing and semantic chunking and search. You will learn about vector databases. I don't know if you have heard the buzzword. At one time, vector databases were the buzzword. You will not use a commercial or open source vector database, but you will build it from first principles. Are we together? You will build these technologies from the ground up in this course. And then, after having done that, you can then compare it to any of the open source or paid vector databases. We will learn to do hybrid search, what that means. You'll learn to do multimodal search. Not only search in text, which is the notion of traditional search, but to be able to search simultaneously and across modalities, across sound, across videos, across pictures and text. And you could be, your query can be a text. Your response in the search results could be a video. Your query and could be a picture and an audio. Other way around, you could be searching through an audio and all sorts of results will be coming back. So that's multimodal search. We will do a lot of that. Yes.
Are we going to build the model and try this one, or we're going to use some of the models?
You will, in this course, in this bootcamp, by and large, you'll take off-the-shelf models and occasionally fine-tune it, but by and large, you'll learn to use them. Right? You'll still be doing a lot of programming, but in the first course, you don't build it from scratch because that's too tall an order. There's too much goes into it. That is the torture I'm putting the Saturday guys through. So there was another boot camp that was yesterday. So those guys are going through that. You must be hearing the word RAG. So retrieval augmented generation. We'll do it in this course. In the next one, of course, you do it much deeper and harder. But because we have limited time, we'll do it well. We'll master it thoroughly. What does that give you the ability? You can take your corporation's document pile and images and x-rays and whatever it is that your company holds on to, and you can talk to it. Literally. You can have a conversation with it. By conversation is not search. You're not just saying, oh, what is this? What's the definition of this or something like that. You can actually engage with an LLM and use that knowledge to have a debate and argue and clarify or look for evidence of some hypothesis. Are we together? Right? To give you an example, Khan Academy is, how many of you know what Khan Academy is? Almost all of you, right? You all probably have kids who are doing the Khan Academy. So has Khan Amigo, right? You know what Khan Amigo is? Well, if you pay them money, then they'll give you an AI service in which the AI tutor will help your child understand a concept and work through a problem. Right? The batch, the Saturday batch, bootcamp, they're actually building the whole thing from scratch. It is RAG. Actually, all they have done, all that Khan Academy has done is RAG. I mean, I shouldn't say all because it's not easy, and you'll realize it's not easy. Obviously, they have done it at an industrial scale. When you do it at that scale, it's not an easy problem. You have to do it right and so on and so forth. But theoretically, the concept is that you'll know how these things are built. How, for example, our relationship to knowledge is being transformed through RAG. How education is being transformed through all this, through RAG and through AI. You'll learn that. Then you will learn little, I just mentioned that you'll take off-the-shelf models, not always. 1 second. You will also be fine-tuning the models. When you fine-tune, the first thing you'll realize is, oh gosh, you need 2 extra zeros in your bank account, which you don't have. right? And so the open source community has come up with clever mathematical tricks to make it still work on your hardware. And we'll go over that. Your question.
The efficient fine tuning, it says memory, is that like remembering memory or is it like an abbreviation or something?
It's performance efficient fine tuning. Oh no, it's a typo. I apologize.
Okay,
It's a typo.
That's what I was
Yeah.
trying to figure. Is that like some?
Yeah. Meme ori.
Yeah, that's how I thought. Maybe that's a service.
Maybe we
called
can coin a
meme
word, meme ori. Sorry, I apologize for that. So so this mysterious meme ori we'll learn about. Yes.
So is fine tuning and RAG complementary to each other, or
No, they're independent, orthogonal topics. Fine tuning is to make sure that you can actually train the model, adapt the model to your needs without breaking the bank or without mortgaging your house. Next is diffusion models. How many of you are absolutely enthralled with DALL-E and all this runway and all of the stable diffusion and whatnot? Right? It's amazing, isn't it? How would you feel that behind all of that, what looks so spectacular and catches everybody's imagination, there is just beautiful, elegant, simple ideas, mathematical ideas. In this course, one of the stretch goals is, I'll give it to you, to create your own diffusion model from scratch. That's a stretch goal, but a necessary goal, a mandatory goal is to use the diffusion models to do something. Whenever you create a RAG, like whenever people have a conversation with the document repository or video, etc., the user should be able to say, illustrate this with a figure. And the question is, can you create some sensible figure to illustrate that? You won't quite succeed. The state of the art hasn't quite reached there, but you will at least come somewhat close to it. Right? And if you do succeed, immediately Sandhill is not far. Run to get VC funding. Right? Now, AI can be attacked big time. Right? You understanding adversarial attacks and defenses and what ways to defend. So defense is very simple. Anybody who tells you that there are ways to defend against adversarial attack is talking nonsense, which at this moment happens to include OpenAI. Almost all of their recommendations are wrong. We are in very dangerous times. It is extraordinarily easy to attack AI. It is nearly impossible to defend. You can raise the barrier. You can prevent silly attacks. But a determined person or a person deeply steeped in AI can take you down in it. Right? So what do we do in the presence of that? What strategies, what security policies we enforce? Right? We'll talk about that, and we'll do some very interesting papers in this space. So you will trick an AI model which knows how to recognize just about all the animals very, very with high accuracy. And you will notice that with something that so tiny change to an image, you'll convince it that when it's not looking at a panda, you're looking at a very clear picture of a panda, and it will keep saying, no, it's a gibbon. Or something else. Those are adversarial attacks. We'll do that. Lastly, we'll go into so you will do video domain, you'll do images. I didn't mention here the video, but it's there. You will do video generation. Right? As you know, this week has been an amazing week. Two people with orthogonal, completely diametrically opposite approaches to behemoths have come forward with something to offer. OpenAI, which is the most closed company imaginable, has released Sora. Right? And then Facebook or Meta, Jan LeCun, who leads the FAIR research group there, has really open sourced, code and all, the JWEPA. I don't know how many of you are aware of that JWEPA, right? For comprehension. And we will be actually we'll be doing exercises and a project with JWEPA in this course. Right? So the state of the art is moving forward, very exciting times. But audio is also happening. As you guys heard, it can be misused quite a bit. For example, apparently in New Hampshire, there was some political mischief done in the voice of very realistic voice and mannerism of Joe Biden. People were called and told there's no need to go vote in the primaries. And apparently that led to some trouble. So, but that's a malicious use. You can do better uses of AI. One of the projects that people did in the previous batch is that they created a virtual professor. It was their project to do that. But when they did that, some of them mischievously cloned my voice. And when I heard the response coming from AI, I pretty much felt the AI would be better suited to be standing here and giving the talk. It digresses less, stays more on the point, and speaks in better English. So, well, we'll learn all of those technologies. Then a lot of knowledge is locked into into things. You know, there are texts written all over the place. See, text written on this remote. This remote is peculiarly shaped. Text is bent. Look at a soda can. If I show you a picture like this, can you read text off it? Can you read content of a document that's just been scanned and very poorly scanned or is bent and so forth? The ability to know, so people, you say, well, that's just OCR, plain document scan, OCR will do it. That itself, by the way, is a machine learning exercise, but it's been there for a while. But we'll take it to the next level. Where will we take it? Here's where we do. OCRs, how many of you have used OCRs? Oh, the people remote, yeah, okay, I see some hands remotely, and so forth. So when you use OCR, you realize that if there are figures and if there are tables there, it becomes rather hard to interpret what the OCR has produced, isn't it? One of the things you will learn is how to look at anything that has text, whether it's a billboard, is the back of a car, it's a marker or anything, to recognize the text as text, to recognize that there's the layout of the, for example, a page, to know a figure, to know tables and extract them as proper tables, tabular data. More than that, to look at equations and render them in mathematical equations, something very, very hard for it, and then to answer questions with the document. So today itself, I'll show you how you can ask a document. For example, you have an invoice that has been scanned in. Lots of invoices there. As part of RAG, can you just ask this question? Now, remember that invoice you haven't done OCR on. You could do the OCR on and do the text extraction and so forth. But can I say, how much tuition has Henry paid yet? Right? And you should get the answer immediately. Even though that record does not exist in the database. It's still there as a paper receipt somewhere. Can we do that? We'll learn and we'll build systems that can do that. A lot of scientific knowledge is sitting in journals in the libraries that with very different fonts, old fonts, and sometimes Google has put in an effort to photograph those pages. So they just exist as photographs, as images. Can you, for example, do this? And this is a project you will actually do. Can you take one of those PDFs and extract the whole thing with equations, with figures and everything, and do a much more modern rendering of it such that it looks much more readable, clean, and like a paper of today? That's one of the projects you'll do. So guys, this is all that you'll do in this course. But in this course, there are two optionals, two electives. Bring your own project. one of the things that I expect you to do is from the different domains that you come and from what you expect to get out of it, bring your own project. Right? If you are bringing in some project that belongs to your employer, take the employer's permission, bring a non-disclosure form, I'll sign it, and then I can give you guidance on it and help you, take you forward on that. Right? But make sure before you bring something to support vectors, you have your employer's permission. Otherwise, it would be considered intellectual property theft. So be very careful. Yeah? Don't bring a project here. Bring a project here of your own. But if you bring something from the work, you must have permission. Yes.
So that means that if you are overlooking the project, right? But if I use the concept I'm learning here.
Yeah, and
trying
take
to
it
do a
there.
project,
No, one-way flow is the most common. In fact, I'll give you an example. One big data company that for confidentiality reasons I won't mention. Let's just say that they took that room. So those of you who know it. But just literally after the first, actually after today, what I'm going to teach you today, immediately went back, did a major feature for that company. And it is one of the release defining features of that product. So yes, from here to there is perfectly normal.
So let's say if I find someone who works at the same company as I, and we know what models we have available inside for internal
Yes.
use, we can all sit together at a table and do that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I encourage you to form teams.
Okay.
Right. So, so it's not just bring your own project; it's bring your own team. Right? And I mean it. Like by now, you must have gotten the sense that this is not going to be one of those easy Udemy Coursera courses. Right. We mean business.
So the reason why I'm trying to ask is to avoid what you said up and on this. Instead of going through the pain, let's say there are
Bring
4 people from within.
Yeah, you do it here and take it back. You do it
It's as
here.
if I'm working from home, but
Exactly.
still working from the office.
Exactly. You do that. And if you're doing a startup with your colleagues on the side, then of course the Chinese, you have to maintain a Chinese wall, right, between your employer and what you do as a hobby, what your moonlight is. Yeah? So all of those concerns, obviously, with some experience, because we have been through many rounds of this. So I'll guide you what is okay, what is not okay. I have some sense of what to allow and what not to allow, or what can get you into
In that
trouble.
case, you'll be using your own hardware, so it can't be.
Yeah. Obviously, yeah. It's as if I'm doing a
Oh, yes,
project,
yes.
but just sitting at this office and doing it.
Yeah. That's right.
But
I have a question.
Yeah, sure. Please go ahead.
I'm sure you've ran into this and the answer may be answered on the side, but what happens when you have mixed teams? And so some people are from one company, some people are from another company, IP is generated. Who owns the IP? Is that resolved upfront within the team type of a process?
Yes. No, certainly. We actually have a box full of boxing gloves for this. No, I'm kidding. It is there, physically there actually for fun, but people do that. But the thing is, we tell people that if you generate IP, it does happen. So what you just said has happened on multiple occasions. Right? We tell them that you have both joint ownership, because no matter what they bring, they adopt a lot of support vectors code. So if they don't behave themselves, I take away the permission or the rights to use my code or support vectors code. And that will essentially collapse the code. So I do have a certain
question is then, like, is there clarity when somebody works on a project, how much of support vectors code that we are consuming, and like, so that if ever there comes a question, you said, hey, bring an NDA, we'll sign the NDA and we will maintain the confidentiality and you'll be able to take it back. But if we take it back, are we in the arena of discussing a joint IP with support vectors?
No. So here's the thing, guys. Whatever you get in the course of this bootcamp as code base from support vectors, it is without any restrictions. You're free to use. The only thing you shouldn't do is what happened to me once. I'll tell you what happened to me once. Once, a manager some director or something from a company that used to exist called Sybase, a database company. Anybody has heard of that? Right? Oh, almost all of you. That called me up and says, we are suing you. And the whole thought of being sued by a big company was scary. I said, what happened? We realized that you're using code that belongs to us. Right? And I had to go through a lot of pain and expense to prove that actually one of the engineers had taken the code from here to there. Right? So long as you don't sue me and claim that you are the genuine or your employer doesn't do that, whatever is here is yours. Are you clear, guys? And whatever product you develop is yours. Just don't turn around and sue me. Support Vectors is it's a mom and pop shop, basically. We are a team of about 25 engineers. It's still very small. And while we would like, we have all given up our jobs to have independent lives, right? And not be under the corporate structure. We run it like a family and friends and family network. We don't have the bandwidth to pay a very expensive lawyer. Don't sue us. Right? So take whatever you want, just don't sue us. Any other questions, guys? Yes.
So now we're going through the course curriculum. Would you suggest any particular course order?
This is the order. It's literally the order.
No, not in this particular course, like the Tuesday's course, Saturday.
Oh, yes, it's a very good. May I have your name?
It's Venkata.
Venkata. Oh,
Yeah.
nice. I just see you in the email. So good to meet you. So Venkata, here's the thing. This course is do. If you ask me, why does this work? Or give me greater detail, we wouldn't have time. But Tuesday courses learn, understand. Typically, people end up taking both in parallel or one after the other if they can't do it. If their family situation or workload is too heavy, they do one after the other. But if I were to recommend you something, I would say do it together. Yeah. Now what you have to do is just make sure that your employer is willing to pay for the tuition reimbursement. Right? If your employer is not paying for the tuition reimbursement, in California, I think it's a federal thing. In US, as you know, right? Education is a tax deduction. Right? So assuming that you are in the 50% tax bracket as all Californians are, or 40% federal bracket, it's a 40% deduction, one would imagine. But yeah, it is what it is. Leaving the financial side, I know that these are expensive courses, but leaving the financial side aside, I would highly recommend you to do both, especially because there's a lot of things I talk here that has direct bearing here as we move along. So take both together. Any other questions, guys, before we go into this?
So this course, Asif, how much math will we need in order to do these projects?
Oh, you must be able to do partial differential equations in curved manifolds. No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding. You don't need that. This is a do, as I said. No math needed. Zero math.
But the Tuesday course is saying
I will introduce you to the math as needed. Whatever math is needed, Alex, I will introduce it. But there will be some math. But not much there also. Actually, it's amazing. Neural networks, machine learning, AI, it uses very shockingly elementary mathematics. It uses linear algebra, some calculus, some probability theory. That's all. Very rudimentary mathematics. Right? Only now are high-end mathematics gradually begin to make their way into AI. But it's just engineering. You must have taken a course in engineering math in college. More than whatever remains and you still remember is more than enough. Right? So that's that. Any other questions, guys?
So do you have any suggestions or guidance on how we make up our teams? If you don't know anybody else in the class?
See, there's a very simple way. Talk to each other. Find your friends. And if you don't find anyone, and if you're motivated enough to put in the hours, do it alone. But remember, guys, given as adults, you will have time when deadlines will come on you. There will be time you'll fall sick. Your children, your family will fall sick. Or n number of things will happen. You won't be able to come and do be there. So if you work in small teams, while you're having a downtime, your team is still carrying the things forward and pulling you through with that. That's the advantage of working in teams. And also the opportunity to do a startup with them. So when you form teams, look at people and say, do you think I can stand this guy for the next 7 years while we do the startup? If the answer is yes, then go for it. That would be one way of looking at it. Any other questions before we take a break and then get started? Today, I'm done with all the administrative stuff, the course portal and the thing. Oh, course portal, I apologize. It's down. We are doing everything possible. I need to go check what we are. We are doing everything possible to restore it, but that's where we are. Any questions, guys? No.
The projects in the roadmap that we show, is that like planned one per week or?
No, some things span a couple of weeks. We'll start a bit slowly. They'll be a little bit easy in the beginning because everything is new to you. So we will start a bit slowly and then pick up speed.
Does each one depend on others?
Somewhat, but I'll try to see knowing what it does helps in the next part. But I still try to keep somewhat independent because, as you know, if you fail in one, for you to not be able to make progress. And anyway, I keep releasing the solutions. So if you can't do something, then you just rebase yourself on the solution and start from there for the next project. All right, guys, it is 11:27, 11:30. Should we take a 15-minute break and start? See here, we will do for the first time. So the goal is to reduce this. There's some if you haven't done AI, it's a good thing. I meant
Unfortunately, work meeting. Yeah. So I was there from 7 to 8. It was my doing that when I was having 2 million. I think that was not this is a so here is the idea and we bring things on the table and then we use it to move it. So we are making a robot and that's not the time to take a course in classical dynamics, isn't it? Yeah. We don't need that. The robots are there, we put them together. Exactly. Yeah, and the classical dynamics, dynamics process of music. That's where you don't want to.
So can you take this course and then this course? It's probably
This one, this gets really exciting. This, I was really amazing. It's actually a really smart. I think that was really a good job. It was really. You can see the notes still on the wall. Oh, this was founded in 2016. We never had one of the risks difficult comes because somebody is after them. So that's how it's.
Yeah. I think that posted that for Tuesday.
Oh, on the website.
Have a CEO.
Oh, I mean, it's quite active. I feel like she's running the program that I have here.
Yeah, this is.
I'm not taking it.
It's in the last year.
Yeah. I'm not sure if I can take it. Yeah, exactly. Time wise, right? That's why I'm trying to understand. For that, you don't need
Shyam. Yes. All of you guys, I know you by email because I get your email.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to put my message and taking a little while to.
I have to study this.
So, it's actually very easy. You can send me an say I'm and just to the point of the check or there's a phone number. It's to the copy. If you use paper, if you use the website for paper, you use Oh, you found it.
Yeah.
I have to show you how to do it. Oh, you are in the similar building, yes. You know how to do this.
I'll take a tutorial. Tell me.
The project of Saturday team. Was it?
The Saturday team's project is to hack Sunday's most important.
Yeah, yeah, maybe.
And Sunday teams to fix it.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Oh, yeah, very nice to see you.
Yeah, is it okay? I attend. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I
How do you like that? How do you like it?
very good, very good. Asif, I want to enroll in the Tuesday. So
Just come.
yeah. So how much is the course and can I make the direct payments to bank of your phone number? Yeah, yeah. Okay. I don't have your phone number, Asif. Can you?
My direct phone number is 517-298-9030.
Nice. Asif, I wanted to talk to you later. I have an idea that
Okay, guys, I'm going to ring the bell.
It's come from Banaras. I hope.
Banaras, wow. The vibration is super. Yeah, any temple in India will have.
All right, folks, welcome back. We are now that we all know how this boot camp is going to go on, it's time to finally do something productive. In future, we won't be going over this introduction again. We'll straight away launch into the thing. So today's topic is quite interesting. It is semantic search or AI search. It came upon the scene in a very interesting way. I'll talk a little bit about the history of what all this is about. Very brief history, because we are going to cover these things, the theoretical foundations, in greater depth on the Tuesday course. So, and because this course, many of you are asking, so I'll repeat it again. Bootcamp is all do things. Imagine there's a table. I put robotics pieces and Lego pieces. You just have to build it. You don't have to know classical dynamics, right, to build that robot. Might help. Tuesday is understanding classical dynamics, if you want to have an analogy. Right? So today, in this boot camp, you build things. To build things, you need to know minimal amount of AI. It's also true that, of course, without understanding what you're doing, you'll sooner or later get into trouble. So you should understand also. Take the Tuesday course, either now or later, but you should do that. Now, the topic for today is semantic search or AI search. The word, if we decompose the word, AI is, of course, there. What is semantic? As opposed to what? What kind of search were we doing? If you look at the search industry, and I will say that search was actually that we do search for things. For example, if you have a record in the database, most of you know SQL, you would run some SQL query with a where clause, or where blah field is equal to, or like percentage, some word percentage, isn't it? That's the most common way of doing it, though it would be a bit of an exaggeration. People in the field, in information retrieval field, they make a nuanced difference between that. It is retrieval of information. People often say it's find it in the database. The search, when they mean search in the traditional sense, in information retrieval sense, they mean something quite different. And I will go into that. But before I go into that, I would like to share these resources. And now that the course portal is still coming up, what is the best way to share it? What I will do is I'm going to download this and I'm going to put it on share, copy. Okay, I'm going to put it on the Zoom chat. Please, the last page before the thank you should contain links to the portal, I mean the technology page, the research paper and everything, right? Let me go to it again. We are going to do one paper today and I'll explain the concept and we are going to build something with it. In the afternoon, we'll actually build something remarkable, namely an AI search engine, right? So can somebody confirm that they can access this presentation?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can, Asif.
Yes.
Okay. You didn't get the Zoom. Okay, some of you don't have Zoom. Namely an AI search engine. You don't have anything at all.
I don't have the Zoom link too.
So Kate will help you. Yeah. So those of you in the class who don't have the Zoom link, Kate will help you one by one. So figure out by email or by something she'll send you. I apologize.
Zoom link, so we are in person.
Yeah, or one of you, or some, if you just have him email it to you. Yeah. All right, guys. So with that, I'll get out of it, and we'll go. I'll explain the concepts first, and then we'll do anything else. Sorry, guys, I'm a little bit disorganized today after the hacking disaster. So I apologize for not being so organized. Can you guys see my writing pad?
Yes.
So when we talked about search, the traditional search industry, this is, oh, it was just a second. What it would mean is they would take some text and they would, 1 second, sorry. Yeah. So suppose you have, imagine the web pages, or some text, etc., etc. Any source of text. What you would do is you would first look for keywords in that text. Let's take the text, but wherever it is, whether in a document on the web, the cow, moon, right? When you see something like that, you would probably identify cow as a keyword, jumped as a keyword, and moon as a keyword, right? Does that make sense, guys? And then suppose you had another bit of information or data instance, text or wherever it came from, right? And the guys, you'll have to mute yourself. The cows grazing in the meadow by the pond. Now what happens? Let's look for keywords here. You have a keyword here. Grazing is a keyword perhaps, and these keywords. What about the rest of the words? They are too common of words for you to search by. If you search documents by the word the, you would be hard pressed to a document that doesn't have it, isn't it? So like that. So, and then you might have a document that says the crescent moon is peeping over the puffy cloud. And you could perhaps say, these are your keywords. So in a very simplified theoretical sense, the traditional search engine has been this. You maintain all the keywords in a dictionary. You keep the keywords cow, jumped. Then, and by the way, when you see cow and cows, you treat them as one word. Right? It is in the world of linguistics or natural language processing, you call it stemming. Cow, cows, singular, you stem it down to the same thing. You now have grazing, graze, and pond, meadow. As you can see, crescent and moon and so-called puffy, but you get the idea. And so what you would say is, let's say that this document is 1, this is 2, this is 3, and let's say there are more documents. You would go there and you would maintain a list. The cow, if you were to look at it, it happens to be in 1 and 2, right? Jumped happens to be in only 1, isn't it? Graze happens to be in only 2, pond happens to be in 2, meadow happens to be in 2, this happens to be in 3, and moon happens to be in 1, 3, and 3, 3. You realize that as you go through the different documents that you scan, text that you scan, you can, step one, extract keywords and then create, it is called an inverted index. This table is called an inverted index. And you guys are actually familiar with it in real life. If you open any textbook, do you notice that it does have an index that looks pretty much like what I just drew, right? Except that there it refers not to the document record itself, but to a page within a book. So this inverted index is the foundational idea of search. All search engines, they're like grown up, much more sophisticated versions of this idea. So when you use Elasticsearch or anything, Solar or whatever it is in the open source community, a commercial search engine, this is what they're doing. They are keyword search engines. Are we together? I'm obviously oversimplifying things. There is a lot more that goes into it. Elasticsearch wouldn't be Elasticsearch if all they did is maintain an inverted index. Right? So there's a lot of engineering that goes in, but this is the kernel idea sitting there. Now, what is if you were to ask, whenever you guys go and do searches on the web versus doing searches within your companies, which all have some internal Elasticsearch or Solar or some commercial search engine deployed on the documents, which feels more intuitive and better? Google or Google feels much better. Anybody who disagrees and feels the internal document search is better? No. Okay? So what is it that Google has that your Elasticsearch or your traditional search engine, they are all keyword search engines. And the main point is the secret sauce of Google, amongst many other things, but the main idea is they are not necessarily doing keyword search. They're doing that, but they're doing something else, which is the main, in a way you can say, one of the things that made Google Google. Right? So, and then obviously this page rank and what, like for example, if lots of things come up, how do you, which ones to show, which not to show, there are page rank algorithms and so forth. But here is the idea, that is a different idea. See, human beings, we find this search interfaces within corporations, Elasticsearch, etc. We find it cumbersome. Right? Why? Because we haven't evolved to think in keywords. Like when you want to ask your, I lose my key every day. I have a knack for losing it every day. I'm quite absent-minded. Right? And if I think it's in the kitchen, it will turn out to be in the bedroom, and so forth. Right? So if I ask my wife, if I ask Sumita, have you seen my keys? What am I saying? I'm talking a natural language. I'm not saying keys. That would be rather rude, isn't it? We don't talk naturally in keywords. When you ask for directions, you don't just say Walmart, go, something like that. We never in natural life use keywords. We haven't evolved to use keywords, right? And to the best of my knowledge, no other living species just lives by keywords. Dogs don't just bark out keywords to each other, to the best of our knowledge, right? So it is something that is quite different. We have all gotten used to entering keywords. But what if we could search by the meaning of what you are saying? Is that possible? You could say in natural language, right? And what you are saying somehow could make it searchable. How is that possible? The traditional answer is, okay, if you say more things, I'll extract more keywords out of it. Now, those of you who have played with search engines know that if you search using keywords, the more keywords you put, actually the worse the search results become, because it comes up with lots and lots of results that are irrelevant, isn't it? You lose precision. You gain recall in the language of machine learning, you gain recall. More of the documents that may potentially have the answer to your question surface in the search results, but you lose precision. It also brings up a lot of junk. Is that an observation, guys? Right? So your keyword is not something that is either natural or optimal, and it simply is not conducive. So people do all sorts of trickery or ways to somehow hack keyword-based search systems to get what they want out of it, right? So here's a different idea. And this idea goes back to 2018 with a paper that we will cover, but first I'll give you the idea of the paper, and then we will do it as a lab. And then I'll give you a project that you will do. So these are the stages. I will explain the concept, then we'll cover the paper to make sure that I have covered everything. Then we'll do a lab. I'll walk you through a guided lab, a Jupyter notebook with code, Python code. You'll play with that. And subsequently, I'll give you guys a project to do. You can do it solo or as teams. Does that sound fair, guys? And that is the scope for the day. The whole scope for the day. Right? So the idea is this. There is an architecture called, it's called a transformer architecture. Transformer is a particular neural architecture. Transformer, it was discovered in December 2017. It changed the world, quite literally. When it was published, people came back from their Christmas holidays, etc. And many people, they realized that something big had happened. It literally wiped out a lot of the old methods of doing text processing, natural language processing like recurrent neural networks, LSTMs, etc. Those used to be the king of the hill. Those algorithms are still there. Those neural architectures are still there. So in the Tuesday course, you will cover those neural architectures. They are useful, they're not useless. But a lot of the natural language processing became, it just went through a sea change. There was a phase transition. If you remember, in translations have been around for a long time. You could translate from English to any language, Hindi, French, Polish, whatever, right? For a very, very long time, isn't it, guys? Google Translate has been around for it. But if you wanted to amuse yourself, let's say in 2016 or 2017, just try to translate anything written in your language to English, and you would have a good laugh at how poor the translation was. It was hilarious. Is it making sense? Yeah. But have you noticed that translations have gone through a sea change? They have gotten hugely better, right? Not only have they gotten better, even voice recognition has gotten better. Voice cloning has gotten better. Image recognition has gotten better. There's a whole big revolution that has happened in the last 5 years. Right? AI is accelerating. All of it, the underpinnings is there in one paper that came out in December 2017. And even the authors of the paper, those are Google authors, they did not fully realize the importance of what they had created or the significance of what they had created. They were trying to address specific bottlenecks in the RNN, the older architecture, and they did it. And they mentioned right away that it became the state of the art on 6 of the major natural language processing benchmarks. The paper is Attention is All You Need. We will be covering it in the Tuesday course. I won't do it here. It changed the world quite literally. Right? When it came out, it was the transformer architecture, and we won't go into that, but let's just say that you can give in text. Suppose you have text, you have words, the cow jumped over the moon. All of them would go in at the same time. So it brought about parallelism. Literally, it could go. And internally, there was a key concept called attention or self-attention. So this machine would figure out or understand what that sentence is. In particular, this machine was trained to understand the semantics, get a very good handle on the grammar and the semantics of this text. It would produce a basic vector, let me just call a hidden state vector, H, a hidden state vector, right? That would belong to some Euclidean space, some d-dimensional Euclidean space. Guys, this is the only mathematics I'll use. Is it okay if I use the word vectors? Do we all know what vectors are? It's an array of numbers. That's it. Array of numbers is a vector. Right? So, and the size of the array is the dimension. Right? So, given this hidden state, now you could feed it into whatever task you wanted to do. For example, if you want to do sentiment analysis, what do you need to do? You just need to feed it into a classic linear classifier, something like a logistic classifier, right? A sigmoid. And these words, if they don't mean much, don't worry about it. Sigmoid or softmax. Like if you want to tell whether the sentiment is neutral, positive, negative, 3 states, you could feed it into these, and out would come an answer. This is well-established machine learning. Basic ML. And out would come the answer. Answers are usually written as y hat. The predictions wear a hat. Y hat will come out. And y is reserved in this field for predictions. Right? Or output labels. Y is the labels. So y is the ground truth. Ground truth is a word often used to what the real answer is. So some human being says, this text is actually very negative. But then what did your machine predict? What it predicts is y hat. What it really is, as judged by a human being, is y. Right? And input is always called x in this field. Right? So all these words would go in. Now, this transformer, once it came out, it was revolutionary in many, many ways. Right? We won't go into that. But here is the idea that led to. So out of this big idea came an original simplified version of the transformer called the BERT, an architecture called BERT, which emphasizes the encoder. The transformer is made up of an encoder and a decoder. Right? These words all don't worry about it. So BERT came out of this. BERT led to many variations. So you must be hearing about distilled BERT, Roberta, Deberta, right? And there's a whole zoo of BERTs. Right? So one day, Sunday, if you have nothing better to do, go create one more variant. Right? You can do that. Right? So you had the BERT architectures came out. And the thing that we are talking about came out in a very interesting way. There is a concept. It is called, and I'll explain the concept, called contrastive learning. Contrastive. Or contrastive loss. This is much more commonly used, contrastive loss, but I'll use that. What it stands for is this. Suppose I want to explain to you a notion of cats and dogs. What I can do is I can take 2 cats and just say the word similar. Right? I can take a cat and a dog and I would say dissimilar. Then pick another cat. Anytime I have 2 cats, I say similar. Anytime I have 2 dogs, I say similar. But anytime I have a cat and a dog, I say dissimilar. Are we together? And what you do is imagine this. Suppose this H was a point, this cat was a point, cat 1. Let's call this cat Felix. Right? Somehow, magically, on a page, let's say this Cartesian coordinates, yeah? Felix was sitting here. And your job is to place a cat and dog on this page or on this in such a way that you put the cats together and the dogs together. Are we together? At the same time, you put cats and dogs as far away from each other as possible. Right? Then why would you do that? Because you don't want in the neighborhood of cat a dog to be around. It might get confused as a dog. After all, we are judged by the company we keep. Right? So we'll put the dog here. Some dog. Well, my dog is called my dog, which is a golden retriever, which is obviously, I believe, the best kind of dog ever. Name is Brookie. Right? And so now comes Garfield, the other cat. You want to put Garfield here, right? And you want to put some other dog here. So what you want to do is put the dogs here. You want to put the cats here. Then what happens? Suppose I give you an animal, but all you have is a mechanism to put that animal on the page, some mathematical way to do that. So let's say that you do all of this by feeding it into a mathematical function, right? And the output of the mathematical function is the coordinates of that animal on this page, right? This function is going to put a cat here and is going to put the dog here, right? So I give you an animal you don't know, and I say, what is it? What do you need to do? Because you have this function, you pass it through the function, and you see where it lands. Let's say that that animal happened to land. Let's take a point. Suppose it happened to land. Do you see that green dot? Here. At the bottom. Let me scroll up a little bit. Do you see where the green dot landed? Is it visible on your screens? Yeah. So it landed there. Tell me, what is your inference about what it is? It's a dog, isn't it? In fact, the kind of dog you will say it is, you can just find some neighboring dogs, look at them, and your dog probably looks like that. Isn't it? So, but the thing is, oh, that is all well said, but where did this function come from? And how do you write such a mathematical function? It turns out that all of neural network, all of AI is nothing but, in some sense, a way to build. It's a technology to build such functions, mathematical functions. All of neural networks are ultimately different realizations of very intuitive mathematical functions. You know what goes in, what goes out, but it's just hard to imagine how it could have done it, right? Because there's so many things happening in there. So now with that there, let's go from cats to text. What we'll do is we'll say it's not the cats and dogs that go in, but let's say you are conversing about something legal. You are conversing about something about sports, right? And you are conversing something about quantum chromodynamics, right? You look bright. So now what will happen? You will end up with lots of statements which are like, I give you data, but if you had this, what could you do? You could just pass it through this function, and that function would put it somewhere on the page, the right place where it belongs. Once it has put it, I can use it for many things. I could use it to identify the subject. I could use it also, don't you think, that if I'm searching for something, suppose I have a question. Suppose I ask this question, have you seen the game yesterday? And since I don't ever watch sports in my life, tell me something that happens in sports. What would you say in a conversation?
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. So what do you say? What would be a typical thing you would talk about? Isn't Super Bowl that funny spindle shaped?
Yeah.
Okay.
Touchdown.
Oh, touchdown. Yeah. Was there a touchdown? Does that make sense? Is that valid? Okay. Let's go with that. You have this text coming. Now, suppose you know that all of the news has already been indexed into the page. So somewhere the answer is there. isn't it? So what would be there? There would be statements like, oh, this guy did, is it a person does it? So this player did this amazing run and then did a touchdown, right? Or threw the ball or whatever it is that you do, right? That text would be somewhere here. If you make this into a vector, the query vector, where will it land? It will land in a discussion about that thing, isn't it? In this vector space. And therefore, when you pull out the neighbors, what will it be? It will probably be the answer to your question. It will be, isn't it? Or it will be about what you're talking about. Make sense, guys?
Can you repeat that process?
See, there's a lot of conversation about Super Bowl and touchdown and some players and whatnot. You have fed it into this vector space. Each conversation, each bit of text.
So the question becomes a vector.
Question, because question is also text. Treat it as a vector, go and see where it lands.
In that space.
In that space. Where will it land? It will land plump in the middle of other conversations about the same topic. Magically, isn't it?
Because you've used the same rules to generate that vector as you did to the
So what this, the magic is, this function somehow magically should understand the text and place it in the right place on the page. You're getting the idea? And how that magic is pulled, we'll come to it in a moment. That's a paper. But suppose it could do that. Then you realize that you have just created a much more powerful search engine that doesn't use keywords. You can ask questions. You can talk naturally. You can give it entire paragraphs of text and say, give me other such discussions, other such content. Do you see this, guys? Is it making sense? And the word is semantic. The thing is, this function has to be semantically aware. It has to have the magical ability to understand not the keywords, but what the whole text is saying. Right? So, for example, the problem with keywords is language is sensitive to even the punctuations. So, if you have ever read the delightful book, Each Shoots and Leaves. Has anyone read that? No. Okay. Look at this sentence. Eats, shoots, and leaves. If I put a comma, what does it become? Eats, shoots, and leaves. That looks like a murderous panda. Right? Whereas if I take out the comma, it looks like that's what pandas do, for example. Does that make sense? And that's one problem. Right? I mean, I'm just trivializing it or just giving you a thing. Why keywords have lots of problems. They don't capture the semantics of what you're trying to say. And therefore, you need a function that says, forget this keyword. We are in the world of AI. Can you understand what this text says? And place it in this page, two-dimensional Cartesian coordinates, adjacent to semantically relevant, semantically similar things. Right? And dissimilar things are far off. Right? So, for example, if you're talking about, let's say, 3 topics, sports, all the sports are here, all the legal is here, let's say. Right? So, if you feel lawyerly because your neighbor broke down your fence, right? Or what's the common topic people talk about?
Weather.
What's that?
Weather.
Weather. Weather is here, let's say. And then the continuum, all sorts of topics that are mix and match of them will be somewhere in between, right? If we could take all text and could do a semantic embedding, and so I'll introduce the concept of semantic embedding. If I could do the semantic embedding of that text, what happens? you realize that you're staring at something quite magical. You're staring at the next generation search engine. And it blows the keyword-based search engine out of the water, assuming that your text has enough semantic to it. Right? If you use small, yeah, 1 second. If you just say the word hello, might not have enough. But if you say something, I've lost my keys. Last I left it when I came in yesterday or something. You could probably find documents that say, Asif is used to keeping his keys either on the kitchen table or next to the bed or something like that. Yeah, go ahead. Somebody's asking a question.
Yeah, Asif, I'm Shraddha. I'm online. So my question is, can you replace the word similar by semantic here? So what does the semantic, I'm mostly computer vision side. So in computer vision, I do a lot of semantic segmentation.
Yes.
Here, what does the semantic, can I replace it by the word similar?
Similar in meaning. How about this word? Similar in meaning.
Okay.
Similar in meaning, right? Or talking about similar things. Yeah. Semantic. So yes, I do know.
Sorry, Asif. Can we say then semantic means providing a context to what is being fed, and that context is kind of what links to the other contexts that are there?
Yeah, we use the word context. See, context is with reference to, it's like the backdrop to something. I'm saying here is a bunch of text. You have lots of text, news, this, that. You take each of them, or web pages. Each of them, you understand what is there in it, and then you embed it. In a way, see, what you're saying is correct, though people don't use the word context. Yeah. And then you got that? Yeah. Look at it, that what does it mean? What is it trying to talk about? That you use to, this function magically uses to put it somewhere on the page. Right? So now that raises a thing, that is all lovely if such a beast could exist, but is it a mythical beast or does it actually exist? It couldn't be created. People have known that if only we could do that for a long, long time. The big change that came with the transformer architecture is we could do that. We could actually make such a function. And we'll cover how to make such a function. Right? Yes.
So the dots in the space, are they
data items, pieces of text?
Yeah. So do they represent the whole document itself or the
Up to you.
sentences?
Great question. Great question. Somebody said, do the dots represent just sentences, or do they represent entire document, or do they represent what is the quantization level of that text? And the answer to that is beautifully the math is agnostic to it. If you so choose, you put a whole document, or you put, and there is an optimal size that makes sense. I'll give you an example. If you take a Wikipedia page, you will see that the Wikipedia talks about many things. When it talks about many things, it's not a good vector that you create. It becomes average of those things. So you don't want the text to be too long, because large texts span multiple topics. Try to take text, but on the other hand, very short text. For example, the cow jumped over the moon, but if you just say the cow, not terribly informative. It will land somewhere around the animals, but not terribly informative, isn't it? Yeah. So there is a value in picking the right size, and that is actually a problem in AI search, semantic search. It's called the problem, and that's why I really like your question. It's called the problem of optimal chunking. Yeah. What is the optimal size in which you want to chunk the text? Right. Let me write that word also down. Optimal chunking, right? So break it up, break text, burst it out into chunks C1, C2, CK. Right? What should it be? You'll learn about it. Right? And much of it comes by trial and error. There's no mathematics, it's empirical. But people have now created heuristics or algorithms to suggest reasonably good chunks. Right? And then you go embedded. So guys, so far, are you guys with me? Because now I'm going to pull a magic on you. What if this function was so smart that you not only fed it text, but you fed it pictures? what would happen? Right? You could say, right? You could say things like man's best friend. And what would come out? Picture of golden retrievers.
Isn't the function agnostic to picture or text in the theory of what it does?
Absolutely. It's completely agnostic. The function can, all it knows is give me whatever, and I will convert it into a vector in a vector space. So now let's formalize this a little bit. I could give it a video, I could give it an audio, right? Now, how do we build that function? We'll build this function in parts. Today, we will start with a function that can only take in text, but still pulls off most of the magic. Then I'll teach you how to feed in, if today itself, if time permits, but otherwise later, I'll explain to you how you can amplify the function to take in anything. By the way, I don't just mean that. You can take in vibrational data, industrial data, right? And feed it in. And you could have natural language conversation with that data. Just think about it, right? But today we'll start like walk, crawl, run. We'll start with text. So now let's formalize this. This page that you're looking at, it is called the embedding space. It is also the latent space. What does the word latent mean? Hidden space means, see, you give it a text and it just comes up with an array of numbers. It's speaking machine. It's not speaking human anymore, isn't it? It is giving you the coordinates in some space. And it's not a page. It's not a two-dimensional space. Typically, these are very high dimension spaces, 300 dimensions, 500 dimensions, 1,000 dimensions. Are we together? Even 2,000 dimensions. So this is the size of the embedding space, dimensionality of the embedding space. We use the word. But see, guys, while those are practical realities, the best way to carry intuition in your head is to have the picture of a page in your mind. Yeah? That there's a magic function that puts it somewhere on the page. If you do that, the intuition works well. Right?
Hi, Asif.
Yes, I should.
Yeah. So, when you start going to NLP side or generative AI side, this concept of latent space comes into picture. And now this concept of latent space have multi-dimension. Now, when you start doing project, you have Z1, Z2, and then it's very difficult to imagine how do you imagine this latent space, because it stores all the information in a compressive state.
Okay, that's a very good question. Let me answer that. So Shraddha's question obviously is that there's latent spaces are very high dimension, right? By the way, it's not just text, it's throughout. It's every field, every aspect of machine learning, whether it's computer vision or it is this or it is even tabular data. You do create latent spaces all the time, a representation. In fact, neural networks are engines that find efficient latent spaces. That's one way to put it. Functions that know how to project it into a very efficient latent space. That's one way of looking at all neural networks. Now the second question is, how do you imagine it? So I'll tell you a trick. I'll tell you a story. When I was young, and yes, there was such a time, decades ago, I came to grad school and people in my department, they were talking very exotic things. Right? They were talking about heterotic superstrings and then many things. And I asked them, what is it? Or say, these things exist in 10+1 dimension. And then I saw one professor explaining to another something on the blackboard. We still had chalk and blackboard that time. Right? Something. And he says, see, as is obvious, do you see? It is obvious in infinite dimensional space. And I was like, how can it be obvious? First of all, nothing is obvious to me beyond 3-dimensional space. Right? And then I learned a trick. what people do is they carry the intuition. So we have evolved intuition in 2 and 3 dimensions. Right? And if there are more dimensions, which likely there are compactified dimensions, and there's a whole theory, Calavia and other manifold theories. They're so compacted that it's not in our common experience. It's not in our consciousness. But a lot of the things, intuition that you develop in 2 and 3 dimensions translates to higher dimensions. There are a few gotchas, some things you can't do. Those people just know the gotchas. So when they say as is obvious in, let's say, 11 dimension space or infinite dimension space, all they're saying is pretty much your intuition from 2, 3 dimensions will continue to that, and it is clear that none of the gotchas are getting you. Are we together? And in my case, I've been doing all of this for a very long time, more than 3 decades now. Okay? That's what I do. I imagine in 2 and 3 dimensions. It always works. Now, the second part of here, but here is a trick I'll tell you. There's a technology, or we will learn that. It is called dimensionality reduction techniques. The simplest one, of course, you're aware of, Shraddha. It's the principal component analysis. But there is TSNE and UMAP and a few more emerging. You can take data in very high dimension and you can find efficient projection down to 2 and 3 dimension. Whenever you get data in a high dimensional latent space, one of the first things you should do to develop intuition is project it down to 2, 3 dimensions. I always do that. So what you will see when I'm talking about these subjects being like this, you will actually, why don't I do that? Let me show you guys a visualization. We were doing it as a project just 2 days ago. It comes from semantic embedding. I wasn't going to show it to you guys, but why not? Let me do that. Since this question has come up, and I know some of you are waiting with more questions, and some of you are smelling the biryani. So let me go to, this comes from a project we're doing. Yes. So guys, I will focus only on this is something real. So you'll see a lot of conversations. Are you guys looking at it? This is literally using this technology, this magic function. We have taken close to 200 pieces of documents, use this magic function to project it into the embedding space, hidden embedding space. But we can't see it. We wanted to see if the separation between the subjects is well. So what did we do? We projected it down to a page, 2 dimension. And when you do it, you see that there is a good separation for most subjects. Guys, this is real data. This is something I'm opening from a project that I'm currently involved in. Right? So Shraddha, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, like a bit, like you represent it in this way. But if you start plotting it from one, for example, if there are Z1, Z2, Z3, Z4, Z5, and you start plotting them in 2 dimensions, right? And then you start correlating it. It's slightly not easy, but we can talk about this in person. Like, it's okay.
Yeah. No, it's never easy, but that's all you got, because it turns out nature didn't quite mean us to have intuition in higher dimensions. So you have to use some form of simplification. And it is hard. I agree with you. It is hard.
So,
okay, so
can I ask one question?
Go ahead, Gopal.
So, if I feel like the word dimension has multiple understandings here. One is the physical dimensions you are trying to map to 3D, but it could be also that the dimensions meaning different kinds of parameters that you use in an equation. Is there a relation, or is it not a relation between these two space-wise dimensions versus the parameter dimensions?
See, dimension in machine learning is always associated with Euclidean geometry, means the kind of space that we are familiar with, except that it's not the space of the physical world, space-time of the physical world. It's some abstract space, latent space. Yeah. But it is Euclidean in the sense that all the rules of Euclidean geometry hold in that space.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I'm just trying to understand. Trying to understand the semantic building. So you use your example, right? So we have all cats.
let's say that this is based on ingesting a lot of articles on cats.
Yeah.
We place it in that
Yeah.
space, right? And now some sentence comes up and we're able to access that space.
Yes.
Now, you also said it's agnostic. Let's say if it's images. If it's an image of a cat, is it that it will, that it'll rest in a different dimension?
No,
vector-wise?
no, it doesn't know that it's an image. It will just get you the point and say, hey, this point is also similar to. Okay. You have to remember, somewhere you have to keep a lookup table saying that that point, you fed it into the magic function, but that point actually belonged to an image. So somewhere in the database, you have to store it.
I see. So whether it is an image or let's say if it's we asked a question about cats.
Yes.
Right? It'll access it from the same space.
Yes, exactly.
Vector space.
Yes. So the question is that are all multimodal situation where different modalities are there, text, images, video, sound, etc. Are we projecting it to the same space, or are we keeping different space for each modality? No, you're projecting it to the same space. It's far richer to do that. So then you have to keep now remember the guys that if you now comes the point, if you send something through the function, before sending it, it will produce you a vector. But it's your job to remember the database record ID. Because what will the machine return you? It will say, if you tell me the IDs, I can return you the vector and the IDs. But in that record, you have to keep track of whether it was an image, whether it was a text, what it was. Right? So today it's all text, because it turns out that this magic function, the simplest version of it is for text, and we are going to do that. So now we understand. Now I'll talk about contrastive learning, and then I'll break for lunch. After lunch, we'll do the paper, we'll do the labs, Jupyter notebooks. Your question.
So is it okay to simplify that each quadrant is a dimension? And
no. Dimensions are axes. See, I can move up and down. Yeah. It's a vertical dimension. I can move forward, backward. It's a dimension. I can move left and right. That's a dimension. 3 dimensions. Now I don't have any more choices. That's it. But regions of this space are not dimensions. The degree of freedom are the dimensions.
When we say 10x dimensions are like thousands of dimensions.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to articulate that in my mind on what you mean by that.
Oh yeah. So neural networks say, as is obvious in 1,000 dimensions. That is joking, but pretty much it's an abstract space. We don't live in space.
Yeah.
But it exists. I mean, to the neural network, it exists.
So Asif, here is just a small visualization of what is on your screen. Like you have here cats and dogs. Now, if I have an abstract space, which you also call latent space, now what I do is on one axis, I just start putting tails. So all the animals that have tails, they will group. Now,
no, see what happens is semantically. When I said cats and dogs, I meant full text about cats and dogs. Yeah. So this is sentence embedding, but yeah, go along that line. So tails. Yes. So what you will find is, and this brings up the question of granularity, or cats and dogs have tails. So where will all the animals or all conversation about tails land? Most likely it will land somewhere in the continuum here. Right? You'll find all the tailed animals being talked about. All along this axis or something like that.
And now if I just, start putting another axis is a mustache. So some animals have mustache, some animals don't. Now I can start putting that some animals have only hands, so only legs, no hands. And like this, I create a database. And now all these things are different parameters, and I can visualize my abstract space based on that, right?
Absolutely. In fact, that's what you do, Shraddha. In fact, generative AI is literally based on that. See, guys, think if I was so imagine that this was not text, but this was images. What you do is now not using this function, but a different function. Guys, you'll encounter that in the Tuesday course. Those are variational autoencoders. So what you do is you come up with you figure out in the latent space. So this is a digression. You figure out in the latent space people. Right, faces. So suppose these are faces with big mustaches, big beards, and beard and mustaches. And here are people, same faces, clean shaved. And so what you can do is now you have a vector that tells you how you can beard a fellow. And that's actually most of generative AI uses tricks like this. You can literally say, give me a bearded, bispectacled fellow, right? Or you take a thing and you say, could you just get rid of his beard? Right? So you do use this vector algebra in the latent space to pull off a lot of the generative magic.
But I'm guessing that, again, based on the data, for instance, it would be difficult to find a cat who's a lawyer. So it would be difficult to connect a dot from the lawyer space to the cat space. Right?
Yeah, that's right. So they should be far off. In this space, they should be far off. And so unless you want to create a rather lawyery, argumentative cat, so that's it. So guys, anyway, so these are good ideas. Now you're getting familiar with the latent spaces. Now, one question that remains is, how do you create such a magic function? So all of the field of machine learning, AI, the neural networks has only one bag up its string. It says you can train a neural network to do anything, right? You want magic, give it enough data and train it using a way of learning called loss function. Loss function says what is right and what is wrong. You just explain to it, right? And I'll explain how you do that. That brings us to the contrastive loss function to train it. Contrastive loss function to train what? The magic function that we are talking about. So what you do is something quite simple. And I'll end with that because after lunch we'll do the paper itself, and we'll have to pick up speed, guys. We are a little bit behind. You go and find texts that are similar, little chunks of text that are similar. What's the easy way to do that? Quite likely they'll be in the same paragraph or something like that, isn't it? But pick a text, TA, find a similar text. Are we together? Piece of text, and find a random piece of text. Right? Random is easy, right? You just dip into a database and pick a piece of text. Right? So imagine that you have access to millions of pieces of text. You just created something called a triplet. Right? And now what you do is, in the beginning, the neural network, you give it, the neural network is not trained. You say, put TA, the text A, into the vector space. So it will go, and let's say that A lands here in the beginning, untrained network. B lands here. I'll just put it somewhere, and C lands here. S and R. Let's say S and R. And then you say, well, you know what? That's not how you should do it. What you should do is make these things come closer and go away, go apart. Make these two go apart. Are we together? And so what you do is you create a function. The term would be some distance function, distance between A and S. Minimize this distance and maximize the distance between A and R, right? And one way to maximize it is to minimize the negative of it. And so you can say minimize the sum total of both of these, right? Are we together? This I just wrote down is the classic triplet loss or contrastive loss equation. Do you see, guys, machine learning is actually quite simple if you understand it right. So you say that for each data point, you do this, and then you add up all of these losses, and then you say, network, you have a trick. It's called gradient descent. Machine learning course, you'll learn about it. Basically, this is a loss. You just say, next time, make little less mistake, right? This is the way good parenting is, right? One way of parenting is you made a mistake. You go at it, right? And dare not make that again. The other is, well, you explain what mistake was made and you say, next time, a little bit better, 1% better. But if you keep on doing it, the thing with machine is you can keep on iterating millions and millions of steps. So if in millions and millions of steps, every stage, you make an improvement of even 1/100th of a percentage, you realize that this machine is going to become pretty clever at putting similar things, similar pieces of text near each other and dissimilar pieces of text far apart. And that is the core idea of the famous and iconic paper, which we are going to cover after lunch, the S-BERT paper, the sentence BERT. And it is in fact, now today, we say more generally, sentence encoder. A sentence encoder is trained on a triplet loss, right? It is shown what is good, where to increase the distance and where to decrease the distance. And when it does that, you end up with a machine which is the realization of this magic, what we call magic. And that's it. So you realize, guys, that to train this machine, all you need to do is take lots of text, create triplets, and do this. And when you do this in one paper, which came out in 2018, I believe in June, with one paper, one simple idea. By the way, people are used to doing neural networks and things, but with one simple idea, you literally upend the search industry. These days, you must have heard the big words, vector databases and AI search and all of that, right? I just gave you the core idea. This is it. It starts with this.
So is this the off-the-shelf embedding models are doing?
That's it. Text embeddings, this is what they do. And so, one second, guys. There's a person in the audience. Go ahead, Ramki.
So, I have to say that LLMs were trained something like this and people manually entering such data.
Oh, triplet data, yeah. So what you do is, see, you can manually create the triplet data, millions of them, which you can't. So what you do is, you use some prior techniques. What you do is, you pick two pieces of text, which are adjacent in a textbook or in a document. They already become similar. And then you pick a random piece of text from some other document. You got your triplet. The creating triplet is cheap, isn't it? And then you could use some cheaper techniques just to verify that they're actually similar, like TF-IDF. In NLP, there have been prior techniques, which are pretty cheap, TF-IDF, etc., to just verify that, yes, they are actually, from a more primitive form, similar. And then you feed it in, and lo and behold, you suddenly have an AI search engine which understands the meaning of what you're saying. Because you realize that there is no limitation to the text size, isn't it? Whatever the text size, it becomes 1 point in the vector space, right? So you could take your time to explain that I am looking for a little golden retriever, no more than 8 weeks old, right? And I prefer it to have dark golden color, brown color, and something like that. And I would rather if it had this kind of a look, right? And sure enough, it will go and pick out pictures and text for that. Now, what is most amazing is you realize that we can often allude to something without actually saying what it is. Yeah. For example, and you will see in the lab, I would say, for the love of dog. What are the keywords? Love and dog, right? And what it will come up with is pictures of human beings hugging dogs, right? I would say things like, well, as you can see, my mind is fixated on dogs. Right? Well, okay, suppose you were to say man's best friend, and suddenly you'll see dogs pop up everywhere, right? And things like that. That is the value of semantic search, guys. And so we'll take a lunch break. It's quarter to 1. I have 10 minutes. I would open it up to question answer. So guys, we need to pick up speed. After lunch, we'll be packed. We'll do the paper. We'll do the lab. And then I'll give you a project to do on your own.
So Asif, I was going to ask a question. The triplet that we're talking about, right? The A and S makes sense. But then the moment you say R, and we're making an assumption that R is going to be dissimilar. What if R happens to be similar and we're trying to maximize the space between A and R?
That's a very good question, Anand. There will be some error rate in the data. See, what happens is when you have to create, if I ask you to create 100 million data points, you cannot do it with human effort, right? So what you do is you try simple techniques, and then what you do is you weed out using simple NLP process. So there are some other bag of tricks you can use to weed out the obviously similar ones between A and R, right? But there will be a very tiny error rate. But so long as your data set is predominantly good, it's fine. Actually, most of the data sets on which these machines are trained, they all have an error rate. Does that answer that for you, Anand?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Anybody, any questions, guys? Yeah, go ahead.
Why it is limited to triplet?
Oh, what is similar and what is dissimilar? Your parents do that, right? Be like that good boy. He comes first in class. Don't be like that guy. It's literally that. Triplets are all in your real world. Isn't it?
What was the paper you were mentioning related to sentence encoding?
Yeah. The paper is, and I encourage you to read it. If you go to the presentation that I gave you, it is this paper. Just go to the website sbird.net, and guys, over lunch, read the paper. I'll go over the paper after that, and then we'll do some real project. But after this, you'll find that reading the research paper will be hopefully a walk in the park. Oh, by the way, if you want to walk in the park in a genuine sense after lunch, okay, then there is a park right behind, and there's a bike trail just across the road. So, all right, guys. So with that, I'll pause. I'll stop the recording, and I'll take a lunch break. Any questions before we do it? By the way, are you guys having fun? Yes. Yeah, I hear a question from the audience. Go ahead.
Yeah. So how long is the lunch break?
Oh, very good question. Should we limit the lunch break, guys, to 45 minutes? Is that reasonable to eat and walk around? So it is 1 o'clock. Let's round it off to 1 o'clock. We'll meet at 1:45. Let's meet at 1:45. That's more like, yeah, more like an hour. Yeah.